Just when it looked like the Middle East couldn't become any more troubled, it has. Saudi Arabia, using fighter planes purchased from America, has attacked the Yemen capital, Sana'a, killing many civilians and causing deadly destruction. Commentators say that Saudi Arabia is a puppet of the American and Israeli regimes and label these attacks unjustified, illegal and barbaric. It has also added fuel to the theory that Washington and Tel Aviv are keen to dismantle Yemen in order to prevent a united challenge against the West. The Saudi air assault on Yemen bears a striking similarity to attempts by terrorist groups such as al-Qaeda and ISIL to undermine opponents of the Saudi High Command. They too have targeted opponents of the former Yemeni president, who is an ally of Saudi Arabia. Riyadh claims it is gunning for armed Ansarullah positions, but Saudi warplanes have clearly destroyed many homes near Sanaa's airport, killing large numbers of innocent civilians. Is this assault an example of oppression or the control of a people? Why is the US so eager to back the invasion and bombing of Yemen? And why does Washington seem to support a country which many regard as a dictatorship? These are the simple questions we sought to answer. And we began by considering this. If the next president of your country were elected only because there were no other candidates, and if in addition he had the full backing of Saudi Arabia, would you accept it? Or what would you do? That's the question we put to the American public.
That sounds a little funky. I don't know how I feel about that. Doesn't sound too fair. Doesn't sound like it's in the Constitution.
I guess it's really up to the people and the responsibility of the voter at that point. Whether we accept it or not, it's our system, it's our responsibility to work harder and not just complain about the situations.
No, I wouldn't accept that. I think that in a country, the people who has the most say would be the people who live there. So I believe that the public or the citizens could really force like another election and force some new candidates.
Pretty much. If he was backed up by Saudi Arabia, I would accept it. If it was for a good cause, then yeah, I would accept it.
I think that would be pretty corrupt. Yeah, I wouldn't accept that.
That's complex because being fully backed by Saudi Arabia is probably not something that's ever happened. Now, I know the Bush family is very close to Saudi Arabia, but that's improbable.
I guess we'll have no choice.
Okay.
I guess I would have no choice.
Oh man, I would probably get a big community together and just try to tell these mofos that's not fair. It shouldn't be right. You know, there should be like a withdrawal from the election. Like, it wouldn't be fair if it's just one person. If there's just one person, then I don't think it'll be correct, honestly.
Interesting responses. We asked our experts to share how they would react if their head of state was elected unopposed and also while being backed by a foreign power.
Of course, we will move forward and we will challenge that decision. We will try to work harder to tell the people that this is really not a choice, because you have no choice. You had only taken the only choice that is the only alternative you have. So I will not accept it easily.
I would go to war to throw them out. I am a Democrat. I will have nothing to do with presidents imposed by the USA, imposed by Saudi Arabia, or in any way maintained like that. These people will always end up with killing regimes, and they never have any intention of solving the economic problems for the mass of the population.
Next, we asked the American public a sensitive question. If your friends or family revolted against a president elected unopposed and supported by Saudi Arabia, and if they were killed as a result, how would you view that shooting or bombing? Here's what they said.
That's insane, like insanity. It's like, what's going on in the world? That everything has to be resolved, but like killing people, and like, why can there be like, you know, why does every result have to be like with killing people and like harming others? You know, people that are innocent, we're just trying to speak up.
This sounds unjust. There's some unfair stuff going on here. This is strange.
As a terrorist act, an act of terrorism.
It would be really sad. I mean, no one deserves to die from bombings or anything like that. So it would be sad. I wouldn't really sit well with that.
I'd be mad at Saudi Arabia.
Well, I would be against it, of course. Yeah.
One way to think about it is that if I lost a family member to a bombing or drone strike, or as an infantryman like my nephew is, I'd be upset no matter what.
Think or seeing how, or why my family would want to, raise up. I guess being American citizens and all will go along with whatever, that's the basic thing that happens in a society. We'll go along with whatever country or society dictates.
If I was to approve of the president already, then it would shock me if they would.
I would cause a riot myself. I would cause a riot myself.
The fact of the matter is that we haven't been bombed at this point is actually kind of shocking at our tactical stances, especially the general public and how they have to put their word into it. So really, we need more diplomacy, not more bombing.
What would the likely reaction be if relatives were killed as a result of rising up against the installation of a president elected unopposed and supported by another country? We asked our experts.
I would see that as an outrageous act of aggression outside the legitimacy of any international organization, including the Security Council, because I do not believe that the United Nations would sanction such an act, as we have seen recently in Yemen. And before, when we saw it in Iraq, the United Nations did not sanction these wars of aggression. I would see it as an offensive war, not a defensive one. And this is why I hoped some big countries in the Arab and Muslim world would always think that we will not participate in an offensive war against people. It is different when you have to defend yourself against outside aggression than when you are attacking people in their own homelands.
You can never bomb human beings into submission. You might destroy them physically, but when you bomb them, they go from hatred into just simply strong resistance. When it happened in this country, it happens in every country. You can finally destroy their food supply, so that literally they just don't have the physical strength. But you attack them, they don't forgive you, they fight you forever.
So the story so far. Yemen's former president came into power after a one-man election prescribed by Saudi Arabia and Washington. And Saudi Arabia itself is bombing Yemenis who have revolted against this. Is it oppression or control of the people? That's what we asked the public.
Oppression and control of the people.
It could be a mixture of both. I don't think they really have the right to bomb people because they're revolting. It's everyone's right to have an opinion of who should or should not run their country.
It depends on more in the situation. We'd have to get more information. I couldn't actually answer that properly.
Yeah, I will definitely say that it is oppression because people are not speaking up and they're not hearing what their opinions is on the bombings, and they're just doing it because, that's how they plan to resolve things, and it shouldn't be like that.
I think that's kind of the both, right? Yeah. So I don't know. They're oppressing them and they're controlling them by basically making them suffer.
How would our experts define the appointment of a US and Saudi Arabia supported president in Yemen? Is it oppression, control, or something else?
Well, it is clearly another step on the road to total domination of the region. It is intended first to crush the will of the people, all the Arab people, not just the Yemenis, to create disappointment and despair in the minds and hearts of the people, especially those who had sacrificed in 2011 to try to change the political balance and the political situation in the Arab world, to create some democracy, to end dictatorship and tyranny. Now it is clear that the forces of counter-revolution have waged their war and they are exacting revenge on those who have challenged their dictatorship. Now I believe that no one should, in the Arab world should accept such an imposition from people just because these people happen to possess money and oil and Western support and Israeli connivance.
I would just describe what it wasn't an election, it was in fact a completely farcical imposition, and it was done by the USA and by Saudi Arabia. Look, behind all this, it is the association of the USA and Saudi Arabia, and the USA's foreign policy is actually controlled by Israel. The object of that policy is a deal with autocratic regimes, because those regimes in practice will tolerate, even encourage and allow the expansion of Israel. That's what it's really about underneath. And as a result, the USA aligns with the most gruesome, barbarian, totalitarian regime full of sexual perverts who like whipping women. That's Saudi Arabia. They're a disgusting lot. But my country, where we are at this moment, your country, this is the UK, we are aligned with Saudi Arabia. And America is aligned with Saudi Arabia. And this is and we don't even need the alliance for the oil. Oil can go be sold straight out on the market. The real reason is the maintenance of Israel against the fact that most decent people say that Israel should not be allowed to expand. Israel has no borders. It is, in fact, an expanding entity. So that's what really lies behind it. And we are here, and we are disgusted by the situation. And same with Bahrain, purely a matter of democracy. And what are we doing? Our country is hand in glove with the killer caliphs in Bahrain.
One of the first countries to openly support Saudi Arabia's bombing of Yemen was, you guessed it, the United States. Why are they so keen to back the bombing and invasion of another country? We asked the public.
I think, well, it's my opinion, but it's just basically economics and like money. You know, they support them because, you know, they're gonna get paid because of the guns and all the equipment. That's U.S. is paying for that. It shouldn't. So I think it's wrong because they're harming others, and they're basically supporting harm to people and just death.
This sounds like there's an unfair balance of peace in the world, and there needs to be some changes.
Maybe political stronghold or financial gain.
I prefer not to answer this one.
I think it's a security issue. To me, first of all, you know, understand we're really good at you know, fighting. We're really good. This country was built on it, and supporting force against what we perceive to be a threat, to me, is a layup. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Interest is what I always hear. Our mutual interests. If our interests are threatened, then exactly what is happening now in the world is going to happen. We're going to support whoever, you know, is in support of our interests.
To gain power over it, pretty much.
Because they probably have the same enemies. Because they're ready to bomb anyone else.
I can't answer that. People are trigger happy. I'd like to take an encouraging stance towards learning and common sense, and the trigger happiness of aggression's sake is something that's archaic and needs to get over it. It's 2015. We have to be adults now.
What are the reasons for America's backing of such military action by Saudi Arabia, namely the bombing of Yemen? We put that to our experts.
Well, it is clear US and UK had declared openly that we are supporting it, although they say we will not get involved. But if you remove the logistic, what they call the intelligence and logistic support that they had given Yemen, if you remove this, then the war would have taken different course. They would you would have probably the Saudi airplanes probably hitting their own troops or towns and villages on the border. But because they have precise information provided by the satellites, the American satellites and the Israeli experts, and I believe, I still have a feeling inside without much evidence that those who, the planners of war who are in Riyadh, probably would include people from Israel and from some Muslim countries.
Well, because the USA is hand in glove with all the autocratic and the most anti-democratic forces in the world, because those forces in practice tolerate the expansion of Israel. That's how only way you can make sense of all that is going on. You've got these ludicrous contradictions. The USA, for example, on the one hand, is supporting al-Qaeda. On the other hand, it is fighting al-Qaeda. In another respect, it is wanting to attack those who oppose al-Qaeda, for example, the Assad regime. And you've got the whole American political structure all the time has been alleging that Iran is somewhere involved in al-Qaeda. All these preposterous lies and contradictions are the result of the fact that the USA is embodied in a massive contradiction, ultimately because it is not serving its own long-term interests. It is serving the interests of Israel. And until that is understood, there's going to be a maelstrom, great forces of going apart in the Middle East, serving Israel's interests.
The US claims to condemn dictatorships. Why then is it allied with Saudi Arabia, itself widely condemned as one of the worst dictatorships in the world? That's what we asked the American public.
No comment on that one.
I don't think the U.S. should be pro to that, because it's a democratic country. So for the fact that they're supporting it, it's basically not it's unbiased, and it's just not right.
This sounds like the people need more unity and less separation. More peace needs to exist worldwide.
I'm not really sure, but yeah, I'm not sure.
Because it's a contradiction of what America stands for. It's the same thing with Egypt. They don't call it a coup, they call it an overthrow, when it was a coup. And we're not supposed to support military coups, and now we have a coup. We're supporting them too, we send them money. So that's just foreign policy for the Americans. It suits us because we need oil, and other people need oil. That's our job.
But that's because we have a different culture, right? I mean, how do you feel about Putin? I mean, he's a thief and a crook and a murderer. But we just don't think of things that way. We condemn it. Can we stop it? Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
That's honestly on people's opinions. Nothing more.
Mostly because we don't control them. If it was a control factor, that too would be dictatorship. It needs to be balanced, and just taking over something and saying your way is over is also control, therefore contrive to the idea.
U.S. is ready to do anything, honestly. U.S. is ready for power. They're ready to dictate anything right now. They were looking for more control and more power. So yeah, anyone who wants the same thing will quickly go for it too.
It does seem strange that the US claims to condemn dictatorships, but works with Saudi Arabia. We wondered if our experts could clarify this apparent contradiction.
This is one of the most outrageous political positions by a superpower. You cannot have such flagrant double standards policy. You cannot go and support people who maim and kill and torture. Until today, Bahrain and Saudi Arabia are among the worst in the world in terms of human rights violations and in terms of representation of the people in running their own affairs. So it is one of those really distasteful experiences we have seen in our lifetime, that the Americans would support these people. Although recently President Obama addressed the Gulf rulers and told them that, look, there is no outside threat to you. The threat is from inside, because you are not dealing properly and democratically with your people. You are not listening to them. You have to change from within. Well, for a president to say this, he has to complement it with action and policies that ensure that our people in Bahrain are not tortured day in and day out and that people like Nabil Rajab, who stands for human rights protection, gets in and out as if he is a criminal inside jail and being tortured and abused.
The USA is the biggest bunch of liars. I mean, there's no limit to their lies and hypocrisy. You take any word like democracy or liberty, and you look at the USA itself now. It's very rapidly moving to a fascist society because its economy has been hollowed out. It's spying on all its own people and spying on everybody else. The government has actually bought 2 billion dum-dum bullets because they're expecting civil war. That's 7. These are explosive bullets, 7 for every man, woman, and child. The USA is now exposed as a country whose economy is weakening, but it's lost the political leadership. If I could briefly say, one of the significance of the developments on the P5+1, which has happened, is that having made an agreement, the USA broke it within 24 hours. And the political power of the USA is still strong, but it's absolutely probably beginning to collapse. Its moral authority has collapsed completely. And this is why, but the USA, unless they go on and wake up, that if they want to have a future in this world, they should overthrow the regimes of the Persian Gulf, Saudi Arabia in particular, and they should stand for the mass of people in a simple, democratic way. Because otherwise, all their rhetoric, all their claims to liberty, freedom, are come to naught, and every decent person in this world knows that.
America and other Western countries claim to hate dictatorships, yet they are strong allies to one of the most prominent dictatorships on earth, Saudi Arabia. As a result, America was one of the first countries to openly back Saudi Arabia's invasion and bombing of Yemen. Everyone knows America's powerful hold on the international media and its ability to influence the reporting of events around the world. These latest developments simply prove once again that winners write the history in propaganda, but losers pay the price in civilian lives.